Whether you're in college, a high school student, or somebody who's just a big weather enthusiast, this video is for you. I'll talk about my journey and how I became a TV meteorologist. Hey guys, what is up? How is everybody doing today? Hopefully amazing. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. It's totally my fault to just kind of let life take its course, but I'm back and with a new video. This time it's in regards to one of my more popular subjects here on my channel, which has to do with weather, specifically meteorology. For those who are new and have not been on my channel before, I'm actually a TV meteorologist. That's not the only thing I talk about on this channel. I'll talk a little bit more about vlogs, a day in my life, what I do on a day-to-day basis. I love fashion, I love beauty, all that jazz. But today I'm going to be focusing on the meteorology part. I wanted to do a little bit of a chit chat, sit down with me, kind of explain my journey and how I became a TV meteorologist from high school all the way through college up until my first job and until now. I feel like the story is the same for many meteorologists when you ask them, oh, what drove you to do this for a living? It's not a very conventional or very typical job that everybody does, and they'll tell you pretty much the same thing. We're all big weather nerds. I definitely was as a child. Literally growing up, all I would do is watch local news or watch the Weather Channel. I was obsessed with the Weather Channel. My family would actually be making fun of me of that. Literally as a little girl, that's all I would do, to the point to where I was actually able to understand how weather works in a very simple way. I knew that if there was a cold front to push through, the next day usually will be clearer, cooler, depending on the season. So I kind of picked up on those little things. I started to understand how weather maps work, but you know, I was young. I still didn't know that you can do this for a living. I really thought growing up that they were just journalists who were just happened to talk about the weather, which actually that's how it used to be back in the day. In high school, I still wasn't 100% sure, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do for a career. I just didn't know how to get started. I did know that it did involve a lot of, you know, math and science, and I just thought to myself, okay, I gotta make sure to maintain pretty good grades and take classes that would work with that. I did do that. I did study pretty hard in high school. I think my GPA was above a 3.2, so it was above average. It was pretty good. I did take a lot of AP and honors classes, which actually probably increased my GPA a little bit. I'm gonna age myself a little bit. I graduated high school back in 2010, so 12 years ago, which is crazy to think how much time has flown by just because it felt like it was yesterday. The whole process of college applications and just understanding the whole college world was a little bit overwhelming for me, especially coming from an immigrant family who did not understand the whole process, at least here in the US. I feel like I eventually figured it out. You know, whole thing with financial aid and all that. So my first step in becoming a meteorologist was to go to a local college. I went to a local university from where I'm from in Massachusetts to do just basic 2 years of general education. Personally though, in my case, it was a big waste of time. And the reason for that is because when you take a specific elective or specific courses in that particular college and you're planning on transferring, which is what I did after, you got to make sure that those credits can actually transfer over. Otherwise you would have wasted your time and money. And that's exactly what happened to me. A lot of electives were covered, but it was not enough to completely shorten my time when I did transfer over. It just took off a few general education classes, but I still had to do more. So after being 2 years at that college, I applied to a college in Florida. The university I went to for my meteorology degree was actually called Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. It was in Daytona Beach, Florida, which was great because it was right by the beach, great weather, all the hurricanes, all the severe weather. It was a great school. It is a little bit pricey, I will say that. I would definitely recommend doing your research in the type of schools that you want to go to that have the best meteorology programs. If it's in-state, it's even better. It'll be cheaper for you because a lot of these meteorology schools were a little bit expensive, I will say. I did have the meteorology option back in Massachusetts. I did want to go out of state. It still would have been just as expensive just because a lot of the colleges in Massachusetts tend to be expensive. What did I do in college? Well, I make sure to keep myself busy in a lot of things. You're going to take a lot of math, a lot of science. Physics was one of my hardest classes, and calculus as well. Matter of fact, I had to take physics 3 times, which was very nerve-wracking because after the 3rd time of you failing it, if you did, you get kicked out of the school. And that was a big no-no. I was already invested lots of money in it. And unfortunately, I did know people where it did happen to them. Don't let that scare you though. It's really all about building good studying habits. And honestly, there was a lot of bad experiences with really bad teachers. Everybody's experience is different in how they retain information, so don't freak out. Because the way my program was set up, it wasn't as old as a lot of the other meteorology programs. It was only a few years old, so there was a lot of changes to it. Matter of fact, my program requirements of my degree changed about 3 times. So they either cut requirements, add on requirements, change the name of the title of the degree. But my main focus was that I knew I wanted to be specifically a broadcast meteorologist. In terms of what I did in college besides just schoolwork, I was a part of, well, a lot of things. I was a part of my sorority, not as active as I should have just because I had to deal with a lot of other things. I was part of the American Meteorological Society, which is this organization that for meteorologists that are based in a lot of these meteorology schools. I was in a lot of things. I did some radio. I was a teaching assistant at our broadcast room that we had specifically for meteorology students who wanted to specifically study the broadcast aspect. We had a little wall area with a green screen on a wall and kind of practice in there, and we would kind of learn the tools, editing programs, and I was a teaching assistant for that and for that weather lab that we had connected to it. In terms of internships, I did not manage to get one. I think there was a reason why, but I had enough credits to where I didn't need to have it. I did eventually do one down the road, and I'll explain that in just a bit. I actually graduated in 2016, and my official title was operational meteorologist. It's a specific type of meteorology that you work in the operations. Like you can work in the private sector, which you work with private companies. You can be a consultant for them. You can be in energy sector. It can be in a lot of different fields. So most companies, a big portion of the meteorology field, a lot of it is in the private sector or in the government, like National Weather Service. I still felt I was not satisfied. And me being the extra person that I am, I decided to do even more school, and I did not even give myself a break in between. That summer when I graduated, I was working part-time at a retail store and actually started my master's degree in journalism. I always had a side passion of journalism. I felt like it reflected and compared or matched very well with what my degree was. My plan was to work in a TV station, and I felt like that would be a great skill to have. I already had some video editing experience. I wanted to just expand off of the communications and the slight journalism that I did in my school. So I went and started my accelerated master's program, and an accelerated means is for 1 year without any breaks. So from summer through winter, through the fall, spring, and then back to summer, and then you end right there in 1 year. And I did that in Emerson College in Boston. That's where I got my journalism degree. I was really excited for that because my dream had always been to go to school in the middle of the city, and specifically Boston, which is one of my favorite cities, and I made it happen. I actually managed to land one of the most amazing internship opportunities, and the reason for that was because I took a risk and I went out of my comfort zone. We had a kind of career / internship fair set up in our college at the time in Boston, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make a resume. I'm gonna go see what they have there, because I knew that they had some big names, like I think CBS was one, NBC was one, and that's the one I actually went to apply. The recruiter for that was actually he said he was blown away by my resume because it was a little bit different than everybody else's, because I have that, you don't know a lot of people who randomly decided to be a meteorologist. I had that science background. He passed along my information to more of the recruiters, and within the span of a few weeks, I got an opportunity to be a fellow with the NBC Universal program, meeting the whole company of NBC and it was based in New York City. And so that summer I went to New York City. They actually accommodated us for our stay, meaning as a fellow, it's a little bit more above an internship. Think of it as like an honors internship. They cover all your expenses for your dorm or wherever you're going to stay in that summer. And they put us in a high rise with the most beautiful views, and I could never get over that. I feel like I just did not take advantage of my time in New York. But nonetheless, I was also placed in a specific department in NBC. Besides just knowing about the whole company itself, we also had a chance to be placed in a specific company in relation to what we're studying, and I was actually put in NBC New York, which is the local NBC channel or station in New York City, not like the national NBC news that you see. I was specifically put with the NBC New York weather team, which is full of iconic people. And also during our free time, we would also learn how to become a TV meteorologist ourselves. We would practice on the green screen, which takes a lot of practice because you need to know where to stand, where to look, where to talk. It's not as easy as it looks, but now it's like riding a bike for me. But it's just thinking back then to that moment, I still have video of me practicing on there and them giving me advice and tidbits and everything as well. My experience as a meteorologist was not only with my internship in New York City. I also did a lot of internships in relation to just overall working in news. I worked at a local, very, very small local TV station that covers just a particular town outside of Boston. And we did a lot of local content. I went outside and traveled around like a reporter would do. We called it one-man band. You're your own person. You have no camera person with you. Carry around all the gear. You set everything up. You record everything. You do your little stand-up, your little shtick, or what do you call it, and kind of put a story together. I did local, or I want to say college broadcast television, which was actually almost comparable to what you see in the TV markets, maybe if not better. So I did a lot of things. I literally crammed so much, and I am surprised. I was commuting an hour and a half to and from Boston from where I lived in Central Mass 7 days a week. I even worked part-time at the Sephora there downtown, so I was there nonstop putting in all the work. I also did my capstone when I was in New York, and we did like a website and kind of focused on different issues. I focused on climate change, and I was kind of thinking more specifically in the terms of the impacts it can have in New York City in the future. So I did a lot of even running around and reporting or looking up information, going to panel seminars that I could find randomly around the city, trying to look up people that I could interview. It was really great, and I felt like I learned a lot in what it takes to be a true journalist. So not only did I sharpen my meteorology skills, still showed my passion for weather, but I sharpened my journalism skills as well. Once I was done that summer, we finished the program. We were officially graduate degree holders, and September rolled around, and I'm like, okay, I think it's time to start applying. And applying I did, and boy, it is not an easy process. I applied to several dozen locations and maybe got a handful back. There are a few programs in place that might help you with placement, that try to help with TV talent and get you represented somewhere. But as a newbie, it was a little bit difficult. You would have to either reach out to news directors, reach out to the meteorologists at the station there, to email them and kind of send along your reel. It's like a video resume, especially if you're somebody who works on TV. It's not necessarily just for broadcast meteorologists, but also for reporters, anchors, anybody who wants to work in news or any type of media, like a TV host even. You have to make a video resume showing off your work, your camera experience, different types of versatile stories. I had one mix of anchoring, reporting, some hosting, because I did do some of that in college. And also my meteorology skills, which was the most important one. So you want to make sure you pick the best pieces, short amount of time, to get the interest of the news director. I was getting a little bit frustrated because it was taking me over a month or so, and I was not really picking up on some good leads in terms of jobs. I thought it was going to be off the bat fast, which, thinking about it now, it was actually not that bad of a timeline. It took me about almost 2 months from starting to apply to when I first started working, and for some people it takes 3 times as long. It can take up anywhere from 2 to 6 months. I got an offer in October, and by mid-November, around Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving, I actually started working. and the rest is history. November 2017, I got my first job as a TV meteorologist, working on the weekends and then reporting during the weekdays in a small TV station in West Tennessee, and I was there for 3 years. I finished in 2020, and I eventually started here in where I'm at now, which is Little Rock, Arkansas, in December of 2020. And I've been here for almost exactly 2 years now. So the situation with a lot of these stations and news, you'll be working under a contract, so you're obligated to kind of stay there. You do work in some things, so you do negotiate some things in your contract, but a lot of it is pretty standard. You're going to be somewhere 2 to 3 years with the fixed amount of money that you make. You don't make a lot starting off, but that's a story for another time. That was quite the journey for me, starting off in 2010, landing my first job in TV in 2017, where I am now in 2022 with almost 5 years of experience as a professional TV meteorologist. I told you about my journey, but what are some of the things you need to know and need to do to take the right steps, whether that is applying for scholarships, looking at the right colleges, what classes you should take. I have a whole list of topics for you guys that I want to cover, not only for meteorology, but also what it takes to work in news as a reporter, as an anchor. I have lots of stuff for you guys, and if you guys want to see more, make sure to subscribe and follow for more content, and leave a like on this video and a comment as well. You can ask me anything in regards to what I talked about in this video, or what you would have liked me to answer, and I can try to put that in my next videos as well. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.